for those of you that maybe you know Melody, but you don't know me and Steven, or maybe you know Steven and you don't know Melody, or whatever, we're just going to do a super quick introduction, and then Melody's going to kick us off. Grab a pen, grab some paper. This is going to be note taking, and feel free to ask questions in the chat. But Melody, you want to kick us off? We'll elevator pitch who you are, what you do.
Sure. My name's Melody Johnson. I am a seventh degree black belt. I am a certified neuroscience coach, and I'm the CEO of Skills Worldwide, which is a children's martial arts research and development company that is now expanding outside of the industry into dance, after school, and summer camps. And basically, what I do here at Skills is we help people who work with children become the leaders that they remember for a long time. And just quick shout out to all of our Skills members rolling deep in here today. Love that you guys showed up.
Awesome. Thank you, Steven.
What's up, everybody? My name's Steven Reinstein. I run a company called Market Muscles. We help roughly 850 or so martial arts schools around the world generate more leads through their websites, and now recently introduced software to help them manage their schools a little bit more efficiently. So super excited to be able to share with you guys today. And then this little secret project we've been working on is going to be freaking awesome. So I'm so excited that you guys get to learn about it today as well.
Thank you. All right, guys. My name's Chris Rodriguez. I am a BJJ and Taekwondo black belt and founded Gracie Pack MMA in Tampa, Florida, and owned and operated that for about 13 years and sold it 2 years ago now. Man, time has just flown by. And it's because GrowPro Agency, which is a company I started back in 2019, has grown to the size that required my full attention. And we work with over 500 martial arts and now dance studios all over predominantly the United States and Canada, and help them with not just lead generation, but also appointment bookings and enrollments. So you are getting three people that, not only are martial artists, but also work with, I was kind of doing napkin math, Stephen and Melody's, probably between the three of our companies, 2,000 to 2,500 schools that, just the rough napkin math that we all work with, which is super cool. And I'm pumped to be able to help make an impact in all of your schools today. So Melody's going to kick us off. So if you want to go ahead and take the mic, and like I said, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. Melody, I'll moderate the chat for you, and let's get this party started.
All right, let's go. Let's see here. Where am I at? I've got all kinds of crazy stuff up on my screen. Let me close that out, close that out. Where is my PowerPoint presentation? Here we go. Normally I have it up ready to go. There we go. All right, thumbs up if you can see this. You can see my PowerPoint. Okay, we're going to talk about brain-based shifts. Now, if you've ever taken one of my seminars, you know my goal is to deliver a ridiculous amount of value that you can implement right away when it comes to working with children. I imagine that everybody here who is in this webinar right now works with children, whether you're in martial arts, dance, after school, and you may even have kids. So all of this is applicable, but it also can apply to helping you shift the way you look at behavior, not just with children, but with your spouse, your significant others, your friends, and your family. As I mentioned, I'm a certified neuroscience coach. I just got my neuroscience certification, and then I am heading to San Diego on Wednesday to work with Dr. Tina Payne Bryson and Dr. Daniel Siegel, who are my favorite authors. Eric, I see you in here. I know you're going to be attending via Zoom. And we're going to be doing a 2-day intensive getting our interpersonal neurobiology degree. Neuroscience is something that has just come along in the last decade or two. And now with MRI scans, neuroscientists are able to study the way that the brain works, and especially when it comes to children, understanding what to expect and what not to expect from them. So today my goal for you is to get this aha moment when you're thinking about children, and particularly big behaviors, not the children who are in the river of well-being and they're compliant in class and they're doing really well, but the ones who are struggling, the ones who have the tantrums and the meltdowns. We're going to go over a specific brain-based shift that's going to make a big difference in how you approach them, especially with those big behaviors. So first things first, in the book, The Grit, written by Angela Duckworth, raise your hand if you've read that book. It's absolutely amazing. It was so good that I listened to the audio book on repeat 3 times in a row, because every single time I listened to it, something else clicked. But in chapter 12, she talks about the culture of grit, and she references this study that she did with West Point Military Academy. And if you know West Point Military Academy, basically they represent the cream of the crop when it comes to military people. Most of the people who come from West Point Military Academy go out to be officers. But what they started doing in the early 70s is they started realizing their attrition rate from new cadets going into West Point was very high on dropping out. Most cadets didn't even last the first 2 years. And one of the reasons why is because it was so strenuous. It was so harsh. The expectations that they had for these cadets, they just couldn't handle it. Even cadets who were coming in with uh, big athletic scholarships, high test scores, all of these things. So they said, how can we decrease the attrition rate in our cadets? And they realized that it came from the leadership. What they did is they transformed how their leaders looked at their cadets. They went from being reactive to being responsive. And what happened is once the leaders started looking at the cadets instead of saying, you need to listen to me, you need to follow directions, and if not, you're out, they started saying, how can we help these cadets instead of expecting grit and resilience? How can we help these cadets develop grit and resilience? And once they had that mindset shift, they started having significantly higher graduation rates from the cadets, which means that their attrition rates actually dropped. And that correlates to what we do with children in martial arts and dance and after school and summer camp. A lot of times we tend to have that mindset of I expect my students to, or the kids who were in my presence, to behave a certain way, and when they don't meet that expectation, then you're handling it in a reactive mindset. Same thing with the cadets of West Point when they started saying, our mindset of expecting these cadets to come in with grit and resilience, and when they don't, we shame them, we threaten them, we punish them. What we're doing is we're catering to the ones who are coming into our academy that already have grit and resilience. So we're filtering out the ones who have the potential but don't already have it. If that makes sense, think about it. When we have expectations for kids and behavior in our dance, martial arts, after school, summer camp programs, you're catering to the anomalies or you're catering to the good kids, but you're weeding out the ones who have that potential. If you shift your mindset and you start to work on how to be responsive versus reactive, not only are you going to move from an attrition model, you're going to work into a growth model of your business where not only are you going to retain your kids because they behave better, but you're also going to start to have more parents referring your business because they see such great results. So let's break that down. Expectations versus goals. Most people, most instructors who don't have any kind of neuroscience background or child development training tend to be very reactive when children misbehave. They have these expectations. They should sit still. They should listen. They should pay attention. They should follow directions. If they lose in a tournament, they shouldn't throw a tantrum. They shouldn't have a meltdown. If they lose in a competition or in summer camp or after school, they shouldn't misbehave. And when they have these expectations and the kids don't meet them, then they're very reactive to that behavior. They use threats, they use coercion, they use punishment, they use shame. And this leads to an attrition model. Because let's face it, if a kid is not having fun and they don't feel good in your studio, in your facility, they are eventually going to want to quit. This is science. This is not necessarily a lack of discipline on your part or a lack of discipline for the parents to keep the kid into your school. It's a biological feeling. If you think about it, the way that a children's brain develops, it starts from the downstairs part of the brain, which is the reptilian brain. It's very emotional, and then it works to the upstairs part of the brain. But when you think of the cortex, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere is responsible for emotions. Left hemisphere is responsible for logic. The part of the brain that develops faster is the right part of the brain, which is the emotional part of the brain. The logical part develops second, and one of the reasons why is because kids need data. And they get the data from how they behave day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. So if you're constantly expecting them to have logic, you're going against the biological makeup of the brain. That's why it's important to be a responsive parent, teacher, coach when you're working with children. This is a huge brain-based shift. So responsive instructors and coaches say, I have goals for them. So if they have a tantrum when they're in class and they lose in a competition, or they have a meltdown when they lose in a competition, I say my goal is to get them to help regulate their brain and get to the point where they no longer have tantrums or meltdowns when they lose. That's just one example. And when you have that mindset, you work in a growth model. You help the child learn how to behave better The parent sees the results, they tell their friends, and your business continues to grow. So let's talk about this. The number one brain shift that changes everything when it comes to working with children and behavior is stop fixing the behavior first and regulate the nervous system first. Okay? I'm going to break this down. Let me explain. Here's why it works. Because when kids are upset, if they have a tantrum or a meltdown, or that you yell at them because they're not sitting still, the downstairs part of the brain takes over, and the parts of the brain, the upstairs parts of the brain, which are responsible for logic, memory, and connection, it basically goes offline. The downstairs part of the brain, there's this part called the amygdala. It's like an almond-sized shape in your brain, and that is responsible for your stress response. So if you see a child who's not sitting still and you say, I told you to sit still, the amygdala, the downstairs part of the brain, reacts immediately and says, uh-oh, I don't feel safe. And the louder, more intense, or more sensitive that child's amygdala is based on the environments that they're raised in, if they're more traumatic environments, their amygdala is going to be more sensitive. The quicker the amygdala is going to close the latch on the upstairs part of the brain, and no type of logic, no type of reasoning is going to make sense to that child. This is in the book Whole Brain Child by Dr. Daniel Siegel. He calls horizontal disintegration. Basically, the left part of the brain, the right part of the brain, they're not connected. And then also the downstairs and upstairs part of the brain are connected. And you can see I cited the book Horizontal Disintegration by Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. Make sure you get that book if this really sits with you. So, oops, my bad. Let me go back here for a second. So here's what I recommend you do. This is how you become responsive versus reactive. And this is something that I train my pediatric ninja specialists on, is a 90-second reset that experts use every time a child escalates. And this is designed to bring the thinking brain back online. So let's use a basic scenario. A child is playing dodgeball in your after school or at the end of your martial arts class, and he loses and he slams the dodgeball down and he starts screaming saying, I don't like this, or I hate this game, or he didn't hit me, whatever tantrum you see. Let's go through a 4-step process instead of yelling at that kid and saying, look, Steven, go sit down. You just lost the game. Do 10 push-ups, and then I'll let you come back in when I feel like you're ready, right? That is behavior by fear. The goal is to get him to not have that behavior anymore, but it's a reactive way to manage that behavior. This quick 90-second reset is a game changer. Let me explain. First step is name it, detainment. So let's say that Steven loses in dodgeball. He slams the dodgeball down. He gets mad because he got out. First thing I'm going to say is, Steven, I see that you're upset that you lost in dodgeball. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to reintegrate that brain. You want the downstairs part of the brain and the upstairs to start to connect, and you want the logic and the emotion part of the brain to connect. The emotional part of Steven's brain right now, obviously, is the part of the brain that is taking over everything else. I need to get the emotional part of the brain to start to talk to the left part of the brain. So me saying, Steven, I see you're upset that you lost in dodgeball. Now, all of a sudden, the logical part goes, see, she sees me. The second step is acknowledge the feeling. I don't blame you, Steven, for being upset. You're a competitive guy. That's what's your very special quality. As a matter of fact, I'm competitive too. I hate to lose. So now the emotional part of the brain is going, wait a minute, she understands why I'm upset right now. So the brain starts becoming reintegrated. Next step is to connect and redirect. But Steven, listen, slamming the dodgeball down every single time you lose is not the best way to behave in a game, because you're just going to stay upset and you're going to trigger everybody else slamming the dodgeball and being really upset. So what are some other things you can do when you lose? So now all of a sudden I'm connecting the brain and I'm redirecting. What are some other things you can do? Now here's the cool part. Steven does not have to have the answer. It's not like, okay, Coach Melody, you know what I could do is I could just say, sorry, I got lost and I lost and I'm just going to sit down. You know, he's not going to tell me that. As a matter of fact, he might not have the answer, and that's okay. All I want to do is have the logical part and the emotional part of the brain to start to reconnect, right? So this is called horizontal integration. So I want them to start thinking. Then I say, you know, one idea, Steven, is to do box breathing. Do it with me. What you're going to do is breathe in for 4. Hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold for 4. Now you're going to do that 4 times. What I'm doing is I'm helping Steven re-regulate his brain to get his brain back online. That is more powerful than yelling at Steven and making him do push-ups. But here's the thing. Here's the final step in this 90-second reset. Step number 4 is to move it. So after I say, Steven, I see you're upset I see you're upset for losing dodgeball. I don't blame you. You're competitive. That's what makes you special. I'm competitive too. But your choice to slam the dodgeball is not the right choice. What other choices can you make? Next time you get upset when you lose, try to do some box breathing. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Now, here's what I want you to do. We got to get your brain back online. So I want you to jump over there and do some exercises to stimulate those endorphins in your brain. You can pick the exercise. You can do push-ups, leg raises, squat jumps, or jumping jacks. Go over there, move it, trigger those endorphins, and let's get you back in the game. So here's what happened. The goal was to get him to realize that that type of behavior is not the appropriate behavior, but I did it in a responsive way. I'm helping him regulate first. He still went over and did the exercises. He still understands that it's not correct behavior, but I did it from being a responsive coach versus a reactive coach. And what this does is it helps trigger neurons in his brain that teach him I can regulate myself. Because if I don't teach him how to regulate himself, he's constantly going to have these tantrums. He's constantly going to have these episodes. My job as a child development expert is to help him learn how to regulate his brain in those moments. Okay, so the integrated brain formula is number one, name it. I see you're upset. That helps him feel seen, and it also triggers the neurotransmitter of dopamine, which helps override the cortisol that he has in his brain. The next step, acknowledge. I don't blame you for being upset. You're a competitive guy. So am I. That triggers oxytocin because we're building a connection. Connect, but your choice not to slam the or your choice to slam the dodgeball is not the right choice. What are some better choices? Now he realizes that he has choices attached to his behavior, so that triggers serotonin, a satisfaction of I'm in control of my brain, and then I have him move it or repair. So moving it is going over there, do some exercises, gives those endorphins back in your brain, and it triggers that endorphin. So name, acknowledge, connect, move, and the behavior improves. Give this a try in your class tonight, your after school program, your dance class. Try it with your kid, try it with your spouse, and watch what happens. This one shift of going from reactive to responsive when you see big behaviors is a game changer, not only for your personal sanity, but you start to wire their brain in a big way. When parents start to see this happen in their child, they notice they are going to be raving fans of your school, of your program. So here's the thing. It's important to remember. This is not about being permissive. There are some behaviors that will require you to stop them immediately. Like if they're hitting somebody, if Steven gets out and dodgeball and grabs Chris and starts punching her, right? But in many cases, you're better helping them reintegrate their brain first, get the logical brain talking with the emotional brain, get their brain back online before you start lecturing. It's like a lifeguard going out to a kid who's in the middle of the lake who's drowning and is sitting there lecturing the kid while they're drowning. They're not going to pay attention. They just want to get back to the shore. A responsive person would be a lifeguard who gets them back to the shore safely first and then explains why it was wrong to swim all the way out there, if that makes sense. So here's our staff rule. We always say behavior is a communication. How do I help them get their brain back online? And this is one thing that I teach in my Pediatric Ninja Specialist program, and we do in our skills workshops. Whenever somebody says, here's a behavior that I had, I say, are you asking yourself, how do I help get their brain back online? Are you saying, what kind of push-ups do I give them? So the staff rule, whenever we see big behaviors, this is important. Behavior is communication. All right, I'm almost done, but here's some things. There's also preventative methods, because this isn't just about what to do when behavior shows up. Talk about preventing it. I'm going to give you 4 different strategies that you can use to help, that you can integrate that help prevent behaviors, especially in the schools that I work with. Number 1 is pre-evaluations. Every single student, before they come in to take an actual class, they do an intake where the instructor runs them through age-specific skills to find out where their strengths are, also where they have room for improvement, and kind of gets a gist of how are they? Are they introverted? Are they extroverted? Do they have a fixed mindset? Do they have a growth mindset? So those pre-evaluations are very powerful before they even step onto your mat. The second thing is age-specific training models. Behavior breaks down when expectations don't match their stage of development. The problem I had when I used to run my martial arts school in the 90s, where I had 7-year-olds to 12-year-olds in the exact same class, any drill that was easy enough for a 7-year-old, the 12-year-olds got frustrated because it was boring. So then I'd make the next drill a little bit harder, and then the 7-year-olds couldn't keep up. So I was running roller coaster classes, and I was seeing a lot of behavioral challenges. So if you have big age groups with a lot of big behavioral challenges, consider starting to narrow those programs down and offer age-specific training. Next thing is play-based multi-sensory drills. Play isn't a reward, it's a learning accelerator. And when children are playing and they're having fun, they develop what's called implicit memories in your studio, and they want to come back over and over again. A lot of people are starting to realize that play-based models are powerful, especially with children at today's generation. We've gone from a play-based generation in the early 2000s now to a device generation for children. They are locked on their devices. We have children who are in physical hygiene, social hygiene is very low. They are in a deficit for their vestibular and proprioceptive senses. So play will help them get those types of skills that they need, especially when you do it age specific and especially when it targets skill-based training where they have underlying benefits to the actual play. And then finally, instructor development that changes outcomes. I saw Chris's post that she posted yesterday in Martial Arts Entrepreneurs, where she was talking about how a lot of people spend so much time training their members and training their students, but not enough time training their team. Once she had that shift of I need to focus on training my team, then my team can run the business and I can focus on working on my business, not in my business. So make sure that you have structured instructor development curriculums, especially that are targeted towards child development. If you're working with children, that's going to help you improve the behaviors in your class because they're going to have the tools and resources that they need. Ooh, I had to get a lot in that 20 minutes. But final thoughts, right? This brain-based shift happens best when you have the right training tools and also the right environment to role play on these tools with like-minded people. So I want you to stay tuned because that's part of the big announcement that Chris is going to be making here in a second. I know I talked really fast, but email me, melodyjohnson@skillsworldwide.com. If you have any questions, you want me to elaborate on the things that I talked about today, or if you want the study notes. If you're a skills member, you know up in the Skills 3.0 resource library in the announcements section, the study download is already published. But if you're not a skills member and you want the study download so that you can reference it, feel free to email me. My email box is open to help make your job easier and more enjoyable. All right. That was 20
Mic
minutes.
dropped. That was great, Melody. Just curious here, guys, in the chat, and Ashton didn't have a question, Melody. So if you want to just scroll up there and read that, and maybe you can comment back. But I'm just curious to see the split.
We take
What is the? Oh, Mr. Roman, got to keep your mic off, sir. For those of you that are on, can you put the split of kids to adults in your school? So are you like 50-50? Are you 70-30? Are you 60-40? What is the percentage of kids to adults that you have? All right, 90-10, 90-10, 85-15. All right, we're seeing a lot heavier on the kid side. And I think this is just so important to understand that training your staff and training your team isn't just training them on punches and kicks. And how we taught back in 1996 and 2006 and even 2016 has got to evolve with how kids and adults have evolved. And I think this is such an important conversation that Melody's really at the forefront of heading in our industry. So this was, the tiniest tip of the iceberg, what she just laid down. And what I love is that she gave you tactical step-by-step things that your instructors can immediately implement when they're on the mat. So Melody, double thumbs up for me. Awesome work. All right. We are going to shift now over to Steven. What you got for us today?
All righty, let's get going, guys. Let me share my screen here. Can I get a thumbs up? Everyone can see? All righty, so we're going to jump into this pretty quick. I've got 5 tactics that you guys are going to be able to deploy today to help parents trust you more before they actually reach out to you. So I know that Chris just engaged with you guys, asked you how many of you run children's programs versus adult programs, and it looks like a majority of you, have most of your students in your children's program. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today really lends itself to attracting more kids into your programs. But I'm sure most of you want to enroll more students, right? And that's really what I focus on is how can I help you enroll as many students as possible through your website, right? So we only have 20 minutes today, at least with me. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but we have 5 quick tactics that you're going to be able to deploy today and make a difference. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So just like your teaching has changed over the last, 10, 20 years, so has the way that parents reach out to you, right? They don't contact schools the way that they used to. They don't call three different places, ask questions anymore. Um, Instead, they're doing their research first, right? They compare you online, they decide who they trust before even reaching out to anyone. So by the time a parent contacts your school, they've already formed an opinion, right? So your website really isn't just informational anymore. It's really the first part of the sales conversation, whether you like it or not. Your website does have a big play into whether or not a parent is going to reach out and ultimately sign up with your school. So what we're going to be talking about today is really how we can build up their confidence and want to reach out to you. So ultimately, when it comes to their kids, parents won't just take a chance, right? If someone is feeling confused or unclear or slightly off about your martial arts school based off of your website, that's where the doubts will start coming in and it stops them from taking action, right? So when we say no trust equals no inquiry, what that really means is if your website doesn't make parents feel confident and comfortable, they simply won't reach out, even if your program is great. And I think where this becomes most frustrating is when you know you have a competitor down the road that teaches really, subpar martial arts, and they're not doing a great job really instilling those life skills in their students, but they're signing up a bunch of students. More than likely, they have a better online reputation and online presence than you do. So we want to make sure that you're enrolling all the students instead of them. So there's 5 elements that consistently build trust online for parents. And this isn't really about having, fancy design on your website or really clever copy. These are psychological reassurance signal parents are, subconsciously looking for, right? So every strong school website hits all 5 of these. So even if one is missing, trust starts to break down. So let's go through them one by one. So 1 is going to be clear positioning, 2 is social proof, 3 is transparency, 4 is authority and credibility, and then 5 is setting clear next steps. And with each one of these, I'm going to share a tactic that you can deploy today. So first is clear positioning. Parents need to know instantly, right? If you're the right fit for their child, not are you a good school, but are you a good fit for their child specifically? So if parents can't tell who you're serving within 5 seconds of landing on your website, they're gonna leave, right? And it's not because they don't like you or they don't think that you are a good school, but it just sets a piece of uncertainty in them that maybe you're not the right fit for them. Okay. So here's the first tactic, right? Simplest way to fix this is by rewriting your homepage headline. So I look at a lot of websites. We serve 850 schools. We're constantly checking out different websites, and most schools use something vague like martial arts for all ages. And of course, that sounds nice, but it doesn't really help a parent identify whether or not you're going to be a good fit for them and help them make that decision. So compare that to a headline like Lincoln's best martial arts schools for life skills or helping kids build confidence and focus. Now, a parent instantly knows when they see a headline like this that, this program is for kids. This is for, my child. This is something that's going to address exactly what I care about. And ultimately, that clarity is going to build trust faster than anything else. Okay, so one other quick note here is in this example, I do mention the city name, Lincoln's Best Martial Arts School for Life Skills. And of course, that's helpful when people are doing searches online. But the key thing here is you need to have some sort of unique value proposition within the headline of your website. So just a quick example of one of our clients, Extreme Krav Maga. You see their headline here is build skills, confidence, and resilience with Extreme Krav Maga and fitness, right? So it's not a generic headline. It really hones in on what they do for their students, and it allows the people that are coming to your website to feel like whether they belong or they don't. All right, moving on to tactic number 2, social proof. So parents trust other parents more than they trust marketing, right? And reviews are no longer optional. They're ultimately expected just based on the way that parents are shopping online. So when parents are Googling you, reviews are one of the first things that they see. And now even AI tools, right? They'll summarize and recommend businesses based off of review data. And no reviews doesn't mean neutral. It actually creates a lot of doubt for your business when it comes to your parents, right? And it's not just about having good reviews on Google, it's about showcasing them on your website in a way where it's not relying on parents to go out and do research on different platforms. You're kind of bringing that research to them directly. Okay. So when it comes to showing your reviews on your website, there's a couple key things that need to be done. So first off is you need to have your visible star rating. Okay. You can't just have the text there. You really need to have the visible star rating because that is a thing that people see that they relate to. They're used to seeing star ratings, whether they're looking on Google, whether they're shopping for a product on Amazon. They realize the star rating right away and they can decide whether or not it's a positive review or a negative review without actually reading it. Right. Second is making sure you have recent reviews. So a lot of times I see a lot of martial arts schools, they think that, setting up their Google profile is a set it and forget it type thing. Or, you might run a campaign to collect a bunch of reviews and then you forget about it for a year. So all of your reviews are from more than a year ago. Right. So if that's you, you definitely need to make sure you have a system in place that consistently gets you new reviews. But again, showcasing it on your website is going to be very important. And the third thing is having parent focused language. So I think this is important when you're reaching out to your parents to leave reviews. You should be prompting them with things that they should be talking about within the review, right? So it's great to go to your parents and say, "Hey, would love if you can share your experience with us on our Google profile." But it becomes a lot better if you can ask them to say, "Hey, when you're sharing your experience with us, if you don't mind talking about the experience that you have seen in terms of your child and the type of progress that they've made, how they started, what they're like now. Give them some ideas in terms of what they can share within their review. And then what that does is when other parents are reading that review, other prospects are reading that review, they tend to relate to it a lot better and they can see what they can expect when their child actually comes to your school. And it ends up being a lot more effective, right? So, in terms of how to feature this on your website, there's a couple things that we do here at Market Muscles. So, first thing, we always put it on the homepage and at the top of every page, right above the main headline here. So, you can see we've got a 5.0 rating on Google, 5.0 rating on Facebook. And something that we are rolling out here is having reviews kind of hang out at the bottom left of every single page. And the way this works is the reviews kind of go in and out every couple seconds. But really, the idea is that you might be having reviews on your site, and maybe it's a block, somewhere on your homepage. Maybe you have a dedicated reviews page. But as people are reading through your website, you never really know what is going to be the thing that strikes with them thinking, maybe I should really take the next step, right? And by having the Google reviews kind of hang out there at the bottom of the page at all times, it's just going to be there to help build their confidence and make them more likely to reach out. So this is something that we're rolling out for Market Muscles clients. If you don't have a Market Muscles website, there's a tool called Senja, Senja.io, that does something very similar to this. But of course, there is a monthly subscription with it. But again, this is something that is super powerful and definitely needed when it comes to building trust for parents. All right, third thing here is transparency. So parents are afraid of pressure, they're afraid of surprises, unclear expectations, right? And ultimately, they don't want to be sold to. They just want to feel guided through the process, right? So uncertainty ultimately kills trust faster than pricing, schedule, any of these things. Okay, so when parents don't know what happens next, they're going to hesitate and they're going to not take that next step and fill out their information. Okay, so explaining what happens next is super important. So, of course, there's going to be a process where the parent's going to request information, they're going to schedule their intro class, they're going to potentially try the program, and they're going to decide if it's a fit. Now, one of the things that I think is brilliant that I know that Gracie Pack used to do, and I'm pretty sure they still do, is as soon as somebody fills out their information on their website and they sign up for a trial, they're hit with a video that shows exactly what they can expect when they're pulling up to the location, when they walk into the martial arts school, where they're going to put their shoes, who they're going to be seeing, greeting them at the front desk. These are the types of things that will get people to become a lot more confident and a lot more excited about showing up for their first day. But ultimately, if you can explain to people, what they can expect, what the experience is going to be like, this is going to be something that makes people feel more comfortable and ultimately build that trust with you, right? So after somebody requests info on their website or on your website, you of course want them to schedule their trial, but try to build out a landing page that talks about, again, what things are going to be like through their first 30 days, through their first class with you, that sort of thing. All right. And then fourth is going to be authority and credibility, right? So parents aren't choosing a program. They're really choosing the people who are going to be guiding their children, right? So they want to know who's teaching their children and whether those people feel safe, they feel competent, are they caring, are they going to be a good leader to their child? And faces build emotional safety for your prospects, right? So this is where the human connection really matters. So if you don't have this on your website, super important. You need to have a real instructors page with photos of smiling instructors as well with biographies, right? And this doesn't really need to be fancy. In fact, real beats perfect, right? So you don't need to set a specific photo shoot for this. You can just grab your iPhone and take some photos of your instructors. But what parents really want to see is those real photos, how long instructors have been teaching kids, why they love teaching kids. And this isn't really about their credentials specifically. It's really about the reassurance that these parents are going to be getting that you guys are the proper choice for their child, that you guys are going to be the leaders that they really need in their life to take them and turn them into great people. So just an example of what this looks like with a lot of our clients. You'll have the name, you'll have the title of them and a photo. And then, of course, the person can also click on that instructor and see a full biography. And one quick little tip that I recommend everyone do with this is for each instructor, include a little fun fact about them, right? And the reason why I do this is because this really humanizes the person. Okay, so that fun fact might be, they love going to Disney, right? Or it might be, in their free time, they love playing computer games. Whatever it might be, this just ends up allowing people to understand a little bit more about your instructors, not just inside of your martial arts school, but outside as well. And it might be the thing that connects, right? Maybe they're like, you know what, my child really loves playing video games, and Kyoshi John loves playing video games. So that's something that we relate on. So I'm sure that my child will love working with Kyoshi-John, right? So definitely include that fun fact with each instructor that you have on your website. And number 5, okay? So this is the final trust element, and it is having clear calls to action on your website. So confused parents don't take action at all. So I like to use this example for any of you that have gone to the Cheesecake Factory before. You all know that the menu has like 85 different options on there. And what happens is, at least for me, and I'm sure a lot of you for you, you sit down and you look at the menu and you think, oh man, there's so many different options to choose from. It just makes it so difficult to choose in general, right? And that's what a lot of your websites are like when you have many different calls to action on your site. So when there's too many buttons or options, hesitation sets in, analysis paralysis sets in, and ultimately people aren't taking that next step. So your website's job isn't to give parents every single option that they can choose from. It's about guiding them to that next right step by giving them one clear action, and then from there, providing another clear action until they get through your funnel entirely. Now, we've tested so many different calls to actions with our clients' websites, okay? And there's one that we've landed on that works extremely well for not just generating a ton of leads, but also for setting expectations and then delivering in a very short amount of time. So that call to action is view, schedule, and pricing options, okay? And what this does is, one, it's going to get a lot of people topped in their information with their information, because ultimately those are the two things that they care about most getting access to. And there is some people that are like, well, why don't I just put my pricing and my scheduling on my website? Well, when you do that, you lose out on the opportunity to, obviously collect their information, and then be able to follow up with them and to build that trust and start to build that relationship. But view, schedule, and pricing options is really the most effective call to action that you can have on your website. And ultimately, you want this to be the only one, right? Less choice creates more confidence. So here's a challenge for you guys, right? Look at your website and see, does it pass the trust test, right? Number 1, is it clear who you're for, right? Who do you serve? What is your ideal avatar, right? You need to make sure that's clear. Number two, do you have real parent reviews? All right. And does it feature a photo, the star review, their actual review, like the actual text that it came from? Number three, do you have a transparent process that's laid out on your website? So that way people understand what it's going to be like when they actually fill out their information, when they show up for their trial class, what can they expect? Fourth, is there human credibility, right? Do you have staff members listed on your website? Do you have biographies for each one? It's super, super important. And number five, is there one clear next step? Do you have multiple calls to action or just one? So that way it's super easy for a parent to take that next step and opt in. Okay, so trust isn't built by accident, it's built intentionally. Right, so at the end of the day, the schools that win aren't always the biggest or the flashiest or the ones that teach the best programs. They're the ones where parents feel safest choosing. And that trust is built online before the first conversation ever happens with you. So when you fix the trust on your website, inquiries follow naturally, right? You're going to have a lot more people that are opting into your site. All right. So a lot of the times you don't need more traffic to your website. You're probably getting a lot of traffic to your website currently. You just need to build the confidence of the parents who are coming to your site and give them a clear call to action that they can follow through with. And I see my camera died
Steven.
halfway through.
Yeah, it's okay. We heard you clear. We could see the slides. Guys, I want everybody to just think about the last time you were researching something and you had to go to somebody's website and the website was just awful, right? The experience was awful. It took forever to load. You had to click 27 different places to get the information that you wanted. This happens often, like if I'm looking for a menu on a restaurant and it's just like the experience just isn't there. This is how people are finding you. It's more important now today than it's ever been before. So make sure you have those 5 trust signals built in to your website. And Stephen, I think there was a couple of questions that popped up if you want to go in and answer. But I'm curious, you guys got 20 minutes of Melody. You got 20 minutes of Steven. What is your one takeaway so far? Just put it in the chat. What is the one takeaway from the last 40 minutes that we have been presenting? Maybe it's an action step. Maybe it was just an aha moment for you. But get those fingers going in the chat. One takeaway, put it in there. I'm trusting the right people. I love that, Chris. Yes, you are. Let's see what else we got. Simple and trust. We definitely are no longer in 1992. The importance of social proof. Be organized and intentional. The lifeguard example. Google reviews on the website. Yes, very important. The frequency of the reviews that you get. You can't just get them once and then completely forget about them. That is a trust signal that Google looks at. Need to meet with Market Muscles to review my site. Well, fortunately, they have some of the best customer service out there. So I know we'll be able to get you guys handled. Awesome. Very cool. Well, I guess it's my turn. And before I dive in, we are going until 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So all of the email notifications and confirmations, you should have seen that this was a 90-minute webinar that we're doing together. But I know sometimes people only have an hour. So I'm not going to make you wait until the very end to see behind the scenes on this secret project. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys now, and then I will shift to my presentation for today. Is everybody okay with that? Give me a 1 in the comments if you're ready to see what this secret project is. All right, let's go. Very cool. So, one of my favorite sayings is from EOS Life. And EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And when we are working with clients, and I'm going to speak for Melody and Steven here because I know they feel this way as well. When we're working with clients, to me, this is the outcome that we want for all of you, because I know this is the outcome that Melody has in her life, Steven has in his life, and I have in my life, which is what a great freaking life if we can do what we love with people that we love, right? It's not just doing what we love, but it's got to be who we're surrounded by in that journey, making a huge difference, making an impact, I know that is one of the main reasons why you opened up your martial arts school. I think we all agree we want to be compensated appropriately. I see these posts inside of these Facebook groups where, people call you a McDojo if, you make money. And it's like, dude, I've been doing this just as long as surgeons have and how long it takes to like get a doctorate degree. Of course, we should be compensated appropriately with everything we've invested into our skills and passing those on. And I think we all want time for other passions, right? Melody loves going golfing. That's something that she loves to go do. Steven, he's a gamer. If you guys don't know that, he likes playing video games, right? That's fair. He also loves training martial arts too. So if you think about, man, if every single day I could do what I love with people that I love, if I made a huge difference in the world, if I got compensated appropriately, and I had time for other passions, would that be a phenomenal life? And I think the answer is, of course, it would be. And when we are working together with our clients, this is what we want to push everybody closer towards. And if you've been following us online for quite some time, I mean, Melody's an OG. I love this photo up here. Up here, this is at the Martial Arts Super Show. She was the only female on the panel, and I remember asking her about this, and it was a story that I think somebody said, like, Melody, how does it feel? Like, were you nervous being up there with all those guys? And she was like, no, they should be nervous being up here with me. And I will never forget her telling me that story, right? She has spoken at every major martial arts conference that you can think about. She's been doing it for a very long time. Same thing with Steven. He's constantly speaking, not only in the martial arts industry, but in the dance studio industry. I do a lot of speaking as well. I do about 30 trips a year. And I was blessed that Steven actually gave me my very first opportunity ever to speak in the martial arts industry at his event. And the three of us have also put on large events. So, Stephen, many years, he's done the Movement Summit. Melody has consistently put on events here in the Tampa Bay, St. Pete area. And I've hosted three different events called Seven Figure CEO. And I'm very, very blessed to do what I love with people that I love, and blessed to call Stephen and Melody a friend. And it just kind of makes a lot of freaking sense for us to do an event, the three of us together. And that is the secret project that we have been working behind the scenes for. It's called Elevate Studio Growth Summit. It's going to be on April 17th and 18th in St. Petersburg, Florida. So all you people that were saying earlier, we've got 10 inches of snow, 15 inches of snow, 20 inches of snow. We don't get that down here. April is a beautiful time to come down to St. Pete. We are hosting it at the Hilton Bayfront, which is in the heart of downtown St. Petersburg. One of my favorite spots to go to. It's got this epic pier that they recently just put in right on the water. The nightlife is phenomenal. There's so many different restaurants. Everything is in walking distance from the hotel. And we are going to be hosting this Friday, April 17th from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then Saturday, April 18th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So this is something we are incredibly pumped and excited about. And it's not going to be like a normal conference where you show up and you get talked at for 2 days straight. We have been incredibly intentional about the agenda and the experience that you get. And it's because we practice what we preach. We have to understand, your martial arts school isn't just about the curriculum, the punches and the kicks. It's the experience that you design for your students. And in 2026, this is more important than ever because humanity has changed. It is changing. It's going to continue to change. We've got the AI boom that is already hitting us, and we want to help you design a modern studio. So we're really going to be focusing on 5 pillars. All of the content is going to fall in line here. It's going to be about marketing, sales, retention, operations, and leadership. All right. 5 pillars to modern studio success. So on Friday, this is all about immersion and momentum. So we chose the engagement activities and the agenda to really immerse you into elevate and build momentum. And we are going to give you a ton of time to really connect with top studio owners. I go to a lot of events, and while there are so many amazing takeaways from the speakers, often it's the conversations that happen in between the sessions that happen at night and that also happen at the table if the event builds that into it where you get the most from it. And this isn't just going to be show up and learn. We're going to start with really clarifying the direction where you want to go, where you're at, and where do you want to go. I'll be kicking off the first day with a 30-day enrollment surge. I'm going to show you the fastest way to increase enrollments in your studio using assets that you already have. And if you've been to any of my sessions, they are tactical. It is step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. As much as I love the 30,000 foot stuff up, we got to bring it down to the ground on how can we implement it. From there, Melody is going to be expanding on what some of the stuff that you guys learned today and revealing how brain-based programs can help you drive higher enrollments, get longer retention, and ultimately build even more referrals. Okay. You're really going to learn how to position your programs so parents say faster, say yes faster. Then Stephen is going to be breaking down search engine optimization and visibility and really expanding on today's session even further. And we're talking modern SEO and AI. So this is the stuff that we are seeing working right now. Okay. We're going to end day 1 with live hot seat coaching. This is where you're going to get real-time coaching during our hot seat mastermind that is going to help you focus on solving the biggest bottleneck that you have in your business right now. When I go to events, for me, I think I could speak for Steven too, because we go to an event together where we do this. This is where a lot of the value lies, the power of the mastermind. Saturday is going to be all about implementation and scale. And we're going to kick off with a coffee and connection. Can you drop, if you're a coffee drinker, drop coffee in the chat. Anybody like caffeine? Steven is not a coffee drinker. Melody, how about you? I don't know this about you. Do you drink coffee?
So I drink coffee in the morning and then I go to my green tea after that.
Oh, all right. Coffee and then switch it up. Steven's more of a soda, right? What's your preferred soda, Steven?
It's a maximum 1 soda per day, and it's only when I'm feeling like like I'm getting hit hard. But it is a Coke, just a regular Coke.
There you go. So Steven's going to have a Coke in hand at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and Melanie and I are going to have a coffee in hand, and we're going to do a connection walk. We're going to be doing a walk downtown St. Pete and really give you an opportunity to connect with the other people that are at the event as well as with the host. Okay. Once that is done, we're going to start in the room at 9 a.m. and we're really going to lock in by identifying our single biggest takeaways. Reflection is such an important part of your entrepreneurial journey, and we're going to build that into your experience. Melody's going to kick us off with teaching how brain-based programs create better behavior that actually lasts. And this is so important because if you've taught kids before, I always said the 3 and 4-year-old class is like herding cats into a pool. That's what it's felt like before. If you don't want to burn out your instructors, this is the type of education you've got to be able to bring back. Okay. We want to make sure that we are increasing parent confidence and retention in our students by understanding how brain-based programs create that better behavior that actually lasts. Stephen is then going to be showing all things AI. He is promising you he's going to save you 10 hours a week. I mean, that's huge, guys. Imagine if you could buy back 10 hours with implementing AI. And we're not going to be getting all crazy technical and you need some computer science degree to figure this out. Okay. This is going to be stuff that you can implement. From there, I will be breaking down the 6 operational components required to build a business that doesn't rely on you. For many of you, you are the bottleneck. We've got to remove you as the bottleneck. And then we are going to help you build a 90-day execution roadmap. So what happens often is you go to these events and you're like, okay, I learned a lot, but what do I do next? Well, we're going to help you create that roadmap. So when you go back to the school, it's not life is in the way and everything that I learned goes out the window. You're going to be able to implement immediately. All right. So as you can see, we have been incredibly intentional about the agenda. Why should you attend? I mean, I saved it for last, but come on, hanging out with Melody and Steven and myself in beautiful downtown St. Pete. Sounds like a really, really great time, but you're going to connect with higher level studio owners. This is an owner's event. So it's ideal for studio owners. We are going to help you improve your enrollments, improve your retention, get more referrals, really help you grow your business. And to me, if I had to say, like, well, what is the theme of the event? It's modernizing your studio for 2026. You cannot be running it like you were running, 2016. I'm sure everybody has seen the social media trend that was going on in January where everybody was sharing pictures of themselves from 2016. I mean, just think about where you were in 2016. You're a completely different person. You shouldn't be teaching the same way you were teaching in 2016 or 2006 or 1996. Okay. So we would love to invite you. The first 25 tickets, and I know that he's already flying off. The first 25 tickets are only $297. Once we hit that, it's going to unlock the next price tier. Steven, what's the next tier after 297 once those tickets are gone?
Yeah, it goes up to 397 for the next 50, and then after that goes up to 497. So I'm looking at our account right now, seeing the tickets being purchased. They are going quick, which is awesome. I'm so excited that so many people are going to be there. But if you're going to be attending, I encourage you to do so just to save that money. That extra $100 could be a nice dinner out in St. Pete or something like that. So yeah.
For sure. Awesome. Well, we are just so pumped for this, guys. Steven's dropped the link a handful of times in there. Our schedule is up there. Information on the venue is up there. You don't have to stay at the Hilton if you don't want, but it's really nice to be able to just walk out of your room, go down the elevator, and you're right there. They do have a Starbucks inside, which is always super convenient. There's a restaurant in there. And like I said, you are in walking distance to everything that is awesome about St. Pete. All right. So that is Elevate. Let me just stop real quick before I dive into my session. Does anybody have any questions? How do we get tickets? We got the link there. Melody, Steven, anything you want to kind of just add on before I go into my 20-minute segment?
Yeah, well, so St. Pete, downtown St. Pete is my hood, my neck of the woods. It's where I live. I live 8 minutes actually from the hotel. So I'm looking forward to not just bringing a ridiculous amount of value to this Elevate event and making sure that you can implement it. I'm looking forward to showing you guys around my hometown. There's a Michelin star restaurant literally right around the corner, but there's also a Saturday morning market right across the street from the event where there's food trucks and all kinds of shops. So, and there's live music. So it's not like you said, Chris, when you go to these events, it's not just the actual content, but it's networking and building friendships and relationships. I know some of you have already come down. I know, Brennan, you've been down. You've already bought your ticket. You bought your plane ticket yesterday. Sorry, Chris. I gave a couple of
I did.
my skills members the in. So, Michelle and I, we've hung out after the event in Chicago. Paula, I know that you've been here. I believe we had lunch. So that part, I'm just as excited to see all my people and meet new people and make more lifelong friends.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yep. So, I mean, the reason why we chose St. Pete, Melody's done a few events in St. Pete. It's about a 30-minute drive from my house. And just the vibe down there is so cool. It's not too far from the airport. So, depending, I think there are Uber people and then there are people like, I got to have a rental. Like, it's not really a necessity to have a rental unless you're just one of those people where like, I need to have a rental car. All right. But
Yeah,
it is
everything's
just a
walking
really, really cool
distance.
type. Yep. Everything
Yeah.
is walking distance. Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. You guys have gotten insane amounts of value from Melody and Steven, and I'm going to make sure to put a bow on this. And if you have any questions about the event, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm sure Steven can help moderate that and answer those questions. But this is a topic that is so important to me because, man, can it be really just frustrating to see a lead come in, see them book? In some cases, maybe they show up, maybe they don't. If they do show up, they come into your school, and then we can't convert them. And that is what we're going to be talking about, is how to elevate the experience that your prospects go through. And this really comes down to having one mindset shift. So my mission over the next 20 minutes is to help you intentionally design the experience that your prospects are having to help you enroll more students. Okay. So we're going to talk about the big mistakes that most schools are making, the gap that most of your prospects are experiencing, the mindset shift you got to have, and then the 5 stages of an elevated prospect experience. And I'm going to give you examples of what you can implement today to elevate the experience that your prospects are having. Okay. So the very first time I ever spoke at martial arts industry was at Steven's event in Virginia, and I spoke on this right here, something very near and dear to my heart, which is called your customer journey. And whether you know it or not, your customers go through a journey. It starts with awareness. They got to be aware that you exist. Then they move to consideration. Should I consider you or your competitor, or maybe soccer, or maybe flag football? Then they purchase and become a member. Then we got to onboard them. Then we got to retain them. And then hopefully we can make them an advocate, because if they're an advocate, what's so cool is that this journey starts all over again. The more parents and students we can get as brand ambassadors and advocates of our school, then guess what happens? More awareness happens. And then we get more consideration, so on and so forth. And one of the things that I don't think we spend enough time on is this consideration phase. We spend a lot of time on awareness, which is the marketing, right? Getting those lines out in the ocean, getting more eyeballs, becoming omnipresent. But it's this stage in between awareness and purchase that I think a lot of schools are just not prioritizing. And it's so important because you're spending money gaining this awareness on your business, and we need to make sure that we're able to move them from consideration to purchase. Okay. So I think, nothing is more frustrating than seeing a name come through your CRM, or you got a lead through your Market Muscles website, or GrowPro got you a Facebook lead, and you're able to talk to them. You book an appointment, and then they no show you, or they ghost. Okay, drop the word ghost if this frustrates you, when people book appointments and then don't show up. It is so frustrating. Look, and all of us at some point in our life have missed an appointment. None of us are perfect, but we need to be intentional about what happens when they do give us information to getting their feet through, walk through our doors. Okay. Because are no shows a part of doing business? Yes. I mean, there's no industry that doesn't deal with this, but can you design a prospect journey to help increase the likelihood of them showing up and enrolling? And the answer is 100% yes. And my question for you to start thinking about is, how much time have you spent on designing the experience that your prospects are having? Right? We've all had stories and experiences of going to a business and just really kind of being blown away, right? And I told this story recently, I think it was last week, about the first time I was ever at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse when I was 8 years old, and the waiter came with a breadcrumb scraper and scraped the breadcrumbs off the table. And I was like, I had never seen that before. That was so cool. Like, what a neat experience to have at a really nice restaurant, right? So are you intentionally designing that experience that your prospects are having? And what I think the gap that most prospects are experiencing is this, okay? This is what most schools are doing. A lead comes in, they call them once or twice. like once typically, twice if you're lucky. They don't have custom, well thought out automations. Look, we have automations that we set up for our Grow Pro clients, but you can customize those so that they are more authentic to your brand and to your voice so that they don't look like just generic automations. And maybe the lead gets automations and they book through an online calendar, but the school owner doesn't pick up the phone to call. You have to pick up the phone to call, even if the AI and the automations are doing the heavy lifting, because we need to build rapport. Business in its most simplistic form is about relationships. We've got to build that relationship. Maybe they get some generic confirmation text and they show up to often chaos at the front desk, if I'm just keeping it real, because there's a lot going on at the facility, after 4 p.m. And they often just get treated like every other lead that comes in. They fill out some waivers, they hop in a class, and then you pitch your prices. And when they don't sign up, you think like the leads are weak or they're just price shopping or we need better scripts to close them. And what I think the gap that most schools have is that they're just not intentionally designing the experience that prospect is getting from the moment that they click. So if you do this and you engineer every single step of the 5 stages that I'm going to go over. So there's 5 stages in this prospect journey. They're going to have clear expectations before they arrive. They're going to be calm and confident and feel welcome when they come into your school. They're going to experience a structured class introduction. The parents are going to get to see outcomes and results in real time. And enrollment just feels like the next natural step. So the mindset shift that I think we need to have in 2026 is that if the experience isn't designed, it's being designed by accident. And that's my question to you is how intentional have you been at every single one of these prospect stages? The elite schools don't just let this experience happen. They create it, they build it, they engineer it. Okay. So these are the 5 stages of an elevated prospect experience. And they live inside of this consideration stage that we talked about earlier in the customer journey. Okay. And there are 5 of them. The pre-frame, so before they even come in, the arrival experience, how you design the intro lesson, the parent observation and the narrative that you control. And then finally, the enrollment. So let me break down each one of these and give you some tactical things that you can implement. So first and foremost, before they ever walk into your school, they are experiencing your brand. They start experiencing your brand from the moment they see your website, from the moment they see your ad, from the moment they see a rack card at the local pizza shop. So your confirmation texts and emails and calls and videos are there to set expectations. Now, Stephen touched on this in his session, but one of the things that we have always done is we send a what to expect on your first visit video. It's like a welcome tour video. We just go over this is going to be who greets you, what your child's going to do, how long it's going to take. And what this does is it removes friction and anxiety before they even arrive. The other thing before they come in is you should be sending them social proof. You should be sending them testimonials and Google reviews of people that are just like them. So if it's an adult program, you should be sending them Google reviews and testimonials of adults. If it's for a kid, then for kids. The certainty really starts before the appointment. And what we have found is in this kind of, stage before they ever walk into your school, if you do these things, familiarity breeds comfort. And we want them coming in feeling comfortable with who we are and what we offer. The second part is the arrival experience. And this is the first 90 seconds. And, something that maybe you don't think about is like, what was the parking situation like? I mean, think most of these parents are driving through rush hour traffic with a kid that's making noise in the background, and it can feel stressful. So what is that experience right when they arrive in the parking lot? When they walk through your door, what are they hearing? What are they seeing? What are they smelling? For those of you that have larger adult programs or we were 50-50, man, some of these adult gear because they train and they sweat and then they shove it in their bag. It makes your studio stink. That is just the reality of it. So many BJJ and MMA academies, you walk in and it's like, oh my gosh, you have to be thinking about this. Also, do you know their names before they walk in? Are you greeting them with their name as they come in? One of the simplest things to do is just to put their name on like a sidewalk chalk sign or on a whiteboard. We actually do a welcome kit that has a tray with their name on it and a uniform and a water bottle so that they know that we were prepared for them to come in. And we really want to make sure that there's calm, confident energy at the front desk, not chaos. These parents are going to be deciding how professional you are within the first couple of minutes. The other thing to consider is, well, what happens if they get there early and they have to wait? I don't remember who I learned this from, but this is one of the benefits of consulting so many schools is that, we actually hear from school owners these really great ideas. And this school owner had a social proof booklet, which was just a 3-ring binder where they printed out all of their Google reviews or any testimonials. So if a parent shows up early or if they're waiting, they hand that to them and they can just shift through all of the amazing feedback that the current students have. Okay. So, what is your arrival experience like? And what is maybe one little area we can tweak there? From there, that goes into the intro lesson design. And I think this is something that not enough schools go back to the drawing board and try and tweak and make better. To me, this is huge. And we built a rockstar tour that is intentionally designed to hit all of the benefits of our academy. And we want to make sure that the intro lesson that the parent sees shows that there's structure and progress and safety and leadership. And it's not just fun or hard work, which are the typical visible outcomes. Because if the parents can't see the value, they won't feel the value. Now, I am with Melody. I am a huge fan on one introductory lessons. Melody calls them pre evaluations. I don't think there is anything better that allows you to build rapport than a one. However, they are work intensive. Right. And maybe you're don't have a large team to help with you, or you don't have the mat space to be able to do this. So maybe you do small group or you do group class. Whatever setup you have, you just need to ask yourself, what are the outcomes you want them to have? And then you reverse engineer how to get there. And again, I just think this is an area that not enough schools really look at and say, how can we make this just a little bit better, and are intentionally designing the experience that they get. Now, while the child is going through the intro lesson, the parent is sitting there and observing. And we want to be able to control the narrative. If you don't control it, the parent's going to create their own. So one of the things to consider is telling the parents what to look for. Like, hey, Johnny's probably going to be looking over to you for your approval. Give him a thumbs up, give him a smile. Don't be staring at your phone the entire time. You can also highlight the wins in real time, explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, and really make sure you're translating the martial arts lesson into a life skills lesson. One of the things that Mike Metzger of Maya taught me is that there are 3 ways to build rapport with the family. And I think the first 2 we all understand. You got to build rapport with the kid, you got to build rapport with the parent, but you also should build rapport between the child and the parent under your roof. So what would that look like? Well, Johnny's doing a great job in the intro saying, hey, go over and give mom and dad a high five and a hug and tell them thank you for bringing me here. That could be getting the parent on the mat and having them hold a target. So we want to build rapport in those 3 ways. The kind of the next level, and this is something that we did at Gracie Pack, was engineering the introductory lesson to meet the specific needs and wants of the student. Now, we were able to do this because it was done one-on-one. But I think we all know within 10 seconds of a family coming in, you either got the kid that's hiding behind the leg, right? And they're there because we want to develop confidence, or you got the kid that's bouncing and running and touching everything, and they're probably there to develop more discipline. So could you shift the introduction lesson based off of the specific needs and wants of the student? So if they're there for more focus, they get a focus driven lesson. If they're there for more confidence, they get a confidence driven lesson. And we actually built 3 different types of intro lessons. And it wasn't that they were so different, it was just that we were making sure to hit the specific benefit that they were there for. Once we plant the seed on what we want the parents observing and controlling that narrative, we then can move to the enrollment, and the enrollment no longer feels like pressure, it feels like alignment. Now, we're really big on utilizing Maya's 4-step enrollment process, where you talk about the child, explain about the program, how it specifically helps solve their wants. We future pace and price anchor, and then we go over payment options. And this is really designed to get them to, based on what you said you want for your child, this is the path that we think you should go. And what is so important, no matter what sales process you use, it needs to be a repeatable system, and it shouldn't feel like a presentation. It should really feel like a conversation. Okay. So these are the 5 different stages inside of the consideration stage, the pre-frame. This is all about the experience that they're getting right after they opt in, from your follow-up and what you're saying on the phone to the automations that they are getting. Then you have the arrival experience. What are they experiencing right as they pull into the parking lot and are walking into your facility? Then you have your intro lesson design. Whether it's one-on-one, whether it's small group, whether you put them in a class, you need to be intentional and have a system in place that gets the end result that you are trying to achieve. From there, we want to consider parent observation and narrative control. I think once a student becomes a member, we spend so much time on onboarding the child and the student, and we forget that we actually have to onboard the parent as well. The parent needs just as much handholding as the child does, and you have to design that too. Okay. And then finally, going to the enrollment. And if you are intentional about the pre-frame and the arrival and how you've designed the intro and the parent observation, the enrollment no longer feels pressured. Okay. So this is just, I think, an area that often gets swept under the rug because we're so focused on getting more traffic and getting more leads. And, then it's like, okay, well, how do we get that lead to actually book and show and enroll? And I'm going to keep it real here, guys. If you are getting appointments to show and they are not converting to trials, or you are getting people to convert to trials, but they are not converting to a full on enrollment, you really got to look at the systems and processes that you have in place and ask, like, where are we dropping the ball? Because if we're unable to convert them, if they come in, you do a one-on-one, and ideally we try to enroll them on a 12-month agreement. But if there's any objection, we'll downsell to a paid trial, like 2 weeks for 29. And I think so many schools are struggling from that paid trial to the full enrollment because they are not being intentional about the design of that. And we didn't even touch on, well, what happens if they do a paid trial? What is that next 2 weeks? Or, if you're doing 5 classes, or if you're doing a 4-week or 6-week, what does that engineering look like? How are we being intentional? That first week they come in, what are they experiencing? The second week, when are we going back and we're doing progress checks? When are we coming in and we're trying to get them enrolled on the program? Okay. So these are the 5 stages inside of the consideration stage. And my suggestion is, based off of what we just went over, just pick one. You don't need to revamp the entire thing. Pick the one area that you feel like you have the most room for improvement and implement one of these tactics. Okay. So that is your call to action. What I'd love to do now is, if anybody has any questions at all for myself, for Stephen, for Melody, to feel free and drop them in the chat. And for those of you that maybe just popped on, Stephen, if you could drop the Elevate link inside. We are hosting an event April 17th and 18th in downtown St. Pete. I know a bunch of people already got their tickets, which is super awesome. And we'd love to see you there. At my new location, we are above a 90% close rate from trial to member. It's the combo of organized trial experience and proper enrollment conference. I love that, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott sent me an awesome gift yesterday that came to my house. It was a Revolution mug, which is the name of his school, and hot sauce, which had a picture. It was like a cartoon picture of himself, and I thought this was really cool. He bought these for his December holiday event as a giveaway, that when people came to the events, they could get the hot sauce. And like, how different is that, right? I mean, there's not many schools that are doing stuff like that. And I thought that was just super, super cool. All right. Will this webinar be available to review? Yes, we will be sending out the recording. The recording will also live on the on our GrowPro agency website. We put all of our webinar recordings, so you'll be able to get that. I don't know, Melody, if you were planning on putting it on the back end for skills, but we will definitely, if you registered for this, which if you're on this, you registered, we will send the email out before the end of today. Okay. Any other questions? And then Melody, anything, maybe you wanted to expand on or anything else you want to add?
Well, I love how you put, and I don't know who came up with it, whether it was you or Steven, but you put modern martial arts school or modern business, depending on what business you're operating right now, how important it is to constantly evolve. And the challenge that I see a lot of times when I'm talking about people implementing updated strategies into their business is they're afraid to make a change because they're afraid they're going to lose customers or clients who are saying, why do you have to change things? And it's not changing, it's innovating and it's evolving. So if you're struggling in your business, whether it's your marketing, your websites, your enrollment conversions, your retention, the behavior of the modern child today, and your heart is saying there's got to be a better way, that's what we are here for. Chris, Steven, and I, if you know us personally, we love this. This stuff lights us up. Chris, you said you did 19 keynotes just this month alone. You can love to do this. I fly out to California first thing in the morning. I have a 6 hour pediatric ninja specialist intensive that I'm doing live on Saturday. Then I fly home on Sunday to be with my family. Then I fly back to California to get my interpersonal neurobiology certification. We live this, we love this, and we breathe this. And we're here to help make your job easier and more enjoyable. So if you found a lot of value in this, and then I encourage you to come to Elevate. If you can't, I saw some people have a tournament, then follow us, stick with us. Hopefully we're going to be doing this again, but feel free to reach out to me. My email is blowing up, by the way. So if you sent me an email, stand by. I will make sure that I get back to everybody before the end of the day. But email me, melodyjohnson@skillsworldwide.com, if you have any questions, or you need any kind of feedback. And I'm sure Chris and Steven, they're the exact same way. Any kind of help you need, reach out to them, whether it's your website or your systems. And like I said, we're here to help you.
Awesome. Steven, any final words?
Yeah, I think this is such a pivotal time, like this being 2026 and the introduction of AI and all these things that are changing. I feel like this is almost like the dot-com era when like the internet was, coming out and, everything changed in terms of the way that martial arts schools were advertising and everything that went along with it. And we're seeing that again. And this feels unlike, any other time. Uh, and I think for everyone that's listening, if you're the type that always says, well, this is just the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to continue to do it, this might not be the event for you because we're going to be introducing a lot of innovative things that will allow you to stay competitive and grow your school in a time where things are changing a ton, right? So we really want the school owners that are willing to adopt these new ways of doing things because we know that this is what's needed, moving into this new era. So I'm really excited about the event. I'm really excited to be presenting and sharing on ideas that haven't been shared yet. And I know you guys are doing the same thing, right? Because it's such a different landscape right now. So it's going to be awesome. St. Pete's amazing. Every time that I've been there, it's like paradise, right? Like it's awesome. So can't wait to see everybody there.
I'm trying to convince Steven to just move to Florida already, but maybe one day, maybe a second home.
Yeah.
That's good.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, super pumped for this. And we're excited to go on the journey. We appreciate everybody showing up. I mean, the majority of you stayed on the entire 90 minutes. We appreciate you investing your time in this. And this is going to be just a really, really amazing event. Like I said, we have designed this truly thinking about how can we get you the best result. This is not just show up, listen, and take notes. It's going to be an immersive experience. And if you have any questions, you have our contact information. And hopefully we'll see you guys April 17th and 18th in St. Pete. And for those of you that are on, guys, you guys know when like moderators take pictures of you on Zoom and you weren't ready for them to take a picture, so you have a really funny face? I'm going to give you a heads up right now. So everybody, make your hair look nice. If you're bald, then I think you're already good. But everybody give me a nice big smile. Here we go. Boom. All right, guys. April 17th, 18th. The recording will be out before the end of the day. My marketing director will get that out to you. Check your email and make it great. We'll see you in April. Bye, guys.
Bye. Great job, Chris.